What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you a couple decks today that center around relatively similar strategies. I mean, almost the same, but very similar strategies, and that is decks centered around Donphan Prime, Reuniclus, and then a Stage 2 line of grass Pokemon. You'll see what I mean. This first list was given to me by Matt Valassis, so huge shoutouts to him. This deck is awesome. It's so ridiculously cool, and I love the strategy behind it. And then the second deck that we are featuring today will be the Truth, piloted by Ross Cawthon, to the World Championship, to the finals of the World Championships, but yeah. Either way, we're going to go through the first deck that was given to me by Matt Valassis first, and the question of the day centers around one of the really vital Pokemon to this strategy, and that is Reuniclus with the Damage Swap ability. As often as you like during your turn, you may move one damage counter from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. This has a very similar effect to Sinister Hand from Dusknoir, except Dusknoir can move around your opponent's damage counters while Reuniclus moves around your own. And my question of the day is, which of these abilities would you like to see come back into standard play? Would you like to be able to move around your own damage counters, or would you like to be able to move around your opponent's damage counters? If you had to ask me, I'm all about the Sinister Hand. I mean, don't get me wrong, moving around your own damage counters can be really cool and can prevent a lot of crucial KOs and is useful in quite a few decks. Actually, I think moving around your own damage counters would be useful in a few more decks than moving around your opponent's damage counters. But still, I'm a sucker for Sinister Hand. That is one of my favorite abilities in all of the TCG. Just being able to do spread attacks that do like 20 to each of your opponent's Pokemon, because those attacks are usually relatively cheap, like 10 or 20. It's usually for like 1 or 2 energies, and you're able to do all of that. And then you can just move it around, and all of a sudden your opponent's attacker is dead. If your opponent tries to power up another attacker, you can just start targeting that thing down too. So I think that that ability would be awesome to bring back to the standard, but at the same time, bringing back Reuniclus and the damage swap would be a really cool ability as well. So let me know which ability you guys want, the ability to move around your damage counters or the ability to move around your opponent's damage counters, and why. On to this deck, obviously centered around Donphan Prime with the Earthquake attack. Well, first off, 120 HP, so pretty solid with the Exoskeleton ability. Any damage done to Donphan by attacks is reduced by 20. That's not... That doesn't mean when Donphan is active. That doesn't mean anything like that. Just any damage done to Donphan by attacks is reduced by 20. So damage from your attacks, damage from your opponent's attacks, whether Donphan is active or on the bench, just all of it reduced by 20. That is fantastic. And then its attack, 1 energy Earthquake, does 60 and then does 10 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. You'll see the synergy coming in. So Earthquake has a little bit of a drawback, obviously, in that 10 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. However, we are able to work around that pretty nicely in this deck. And then for 3 fighting energy, heavy impact. I would have liked it if it was just 2 fighting and a colorless, but 3 fighting nonetheless. Obviously not going to be using it that much. We're going to be focusing on using Earthquake just to deal heavy damage for cheap and to deal that damage quickly. Now, the Pokemon we are pairing it with, first of all, I'm getting this out of the way because it has less to do with the strategy, but it's still a cool line, is Zoroark, 100 HP, and this is the foul play one. Choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So not very situational, not always useful in this deck, but sometimes when your opponent has like a Pokemon out that can do 150 damage or something like that, just throwing up a Zoroark, throwing a double colorless on it, makes it really just kind of a really cheeky way to do this. So that is pretty nice. And then also the Nasty Plot attack is excellent in conjunction with Rainbow Energy. Search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. It's just a free computer search. Well, not a free computer search. It's a computer search that you use as an attack. So very nice, but very situational. Running 3/3 of our main attacker, Phanpy and Donphan Prime. And then one way to abuse Donphan's Earthquake is to put a couple of Outrage Mons in there. We have a Reshiram and a Zekrom for type coverage. Just really look at what deck your opponent is using and adjust your Outragemon accordingly, and then also they have cool synergy with the damage swap Reuniclus, to where if you have a ton of damage on your field, you can just move it all to Reshiram and Zekrom so you can hit the right number with Outrage. Just really cool synergy overall. We are also running 3 copies, well, a 3-1-3 line of the Serperior, and this is really where Reuniclus and Serperior just shine, because Serperior, at any time between turns, heal 10 damage from each of your Pokemon. Reuniclus has the ability to obviously move damage around, so you can put like 20 on each of your Pokemon, and then coming back into your turn, that 20 damage is just healed off with Royal Heals. So a really, really cool combination. You can get a ton of healing done very quickly and just eliminate all of your opponent's damage on the board. So that is really just the synergy of this deck. Hit with Donphan, put damage on your Outrage Mons when you need it, and then heal with Serperior and Reuniclus. So, I mean, I just find this combination so cool because it's 3 cards, so it's obviously very clunky, but once you get it set up, Donphan is very bulky, especially with Exoskeleton. You can just be like, yeah, you're just not going to be able to kill any of my Pokemon. Sorry, not sorry. So, really cool combination right there. As for the item cards, we're running 1 Alph Lithograph, the one that lets you look at your face-down prizes, because if you need like an extra Donphan or a computer search or something like that, if something is missing, you can look at your prizes to know which prize you are grabbing. This deck relies a lot on key parts here and there, so if a key part is prized, you want to know where it is. Alph Lithograph lets you figure out what your prizes are and where, and also doesn't let your opponent see. I think this card would be so powerful if reprinted, because Town Map lets your opponent see what you grab and lets them see what your prizes are. Well, Alph Lithograph just lets you know, but doesn't let your opponent know, which is super strong. Running 1 Computer Search, because I mean, Computer Search, you 100% want to use that in this deck, especially because Dowsing Machine is replaced by Junk Arm, but Computer Search is ridiculously powerful. Just gets you that one piece that you're missing. If you need like a rare candy, or you need a Reuniclus or a fighting energy, whatever you need, Computer Search grabs it. 1 Energy Retrieval to get back some of the fighting and grass energies that you might need. 4 Junk Arm to reuse anything that is in our discard pile that we might need to use again. 3 Level Ball to search out almost all of our Pokemon. Reuniclus can be searched out. The only things that can't are Zoroark, Donphan, and the Serperior, but I mean, we have other ways of searching those as well. But Level Ball just, well, and obviously the Outrage Mons. I forgot to include them in the Pokemon that you cannot get with Level Ball, but Level Ball gets you really almost all that you need to get set up, and once you're set up, you have ways, or you should have ways, of being able to search out the Pokemon that you need. We are also running 3 PCOMs because, as you can obviously tell, running a very, very heavy line of Pokemon in this deck, and you don't want to discard a lot of stuff with Ultra Ball, especially because you already have plenty of discard with Computer Search and Junk Arm, so having to discard with Ultra Ball would be getting rid of resources that you need. So PCOM is great because you'll more often than not have a Pokemon in your hand that you can just PCOM away to get the Pokemon that you need. 2 Rare Candy, we're running 2 Stage 2s in the deck with Reuniclus and Serperior. This allows you to go straight from Solosis into Reuniclus, or Snivy into Serperior. And then as for the supporters, running 3N, just when you fall behind, you're able to shuffle into your deck and also put your opponent down to a lower hand size. 2 Pokemon Collector to help you get set up in turn 1 or turn 2. 4 Oak's New Theory just for a fresh hand of 6, and then 2 Twins, because in this deck, you're going to be falling behind as you try to get set up, so Twins helps you get any 2 cards that you would want and the 2 puzzle pieces that you might need in order to set up completely. And then as for the energy, running a lot of 3s, 3 DCE, 3 Rainbow Energy. Well, the DCEs are for the Reshiram Zekrom, and then the Zoroark, and then the Rainbow Energy is for really whatever you want to put it on, mostly for the Zoroark, so you have the Darkness Energy there. The 3 Fighting for Donphan, and then 3 Grass Energy just in case you need to attack with a Leaf Tornado from Serperior. Just kind of a cool, here's an option if you need it. So yeah, this is the Serperior version of this deck. I am now going to show you the truth that Ross Cawthon used, and as you can see, it is a little bit different, but same basic premise, although the Stage 2 Pokemon has been changed from Serperior to Vileplume. With the Allergy Flower, each Pokemon can't play any trainer cards from his or her hand, so it trades the healing, the consistent healing of Serperior for the item lock of of Vileplume, which is very, very strong. Reshiram has been replaced with another Zekrom in this deck, and you obviously have Suicune and Entei Legend, which was not in the other deck. That's just to help with type matchups and stuff like that. Still have the Donphan, still have the Reuniclus, still have the Outrage Mons, although one thing that Ross is running different as well, well, I guess technically 3 things, have a Cleffa for Eek being able to shuffle in and draw 6, and then Pichu with Playground to be able to get as many, to fill up your bench with the Pokemon that you want in order to be able to get set up as quickly as possible. And then also, in lieu of the Serperior, we have a Blissey Prime with the Blissful Nurse. Once during your turn, when you play Blissey from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may remove all damage counters from all of your Pokemon. If you do, discard all energy attached to those Pokemon that had any damage counters on them. So that would seem really counterintuitive because Donphan would have damage on it and you'd have to discard the energy, but this is where the synergy with Reuniclus comes into play, because you put all the damage on Pokemon that don't have any energy on it, play the Blissey Prime, heal off all that damage, and yeah, so basically same exact types of decks. Well, not same exact, but the same general strategy, just swapping out the consistent healing of Serperior for the mass healing of Blissey Prime, and then also for the item lock of Vileplume. So both of these decks are very, very cool and were successful in their day. So let's just go ahead and see both of these in action one at a time. Alrighty, we have found one with the Serperior version of this deck against Pistola Jorge, or yeah, Pistola Jorge? I don't know. Pistola Jorge, that's how I'm going to say it. But either way, looks like we are up against a Rayquaza Eels deck, which should be, well, interesting to say the least. The problem, I mean, this deck is really, really cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this deck. I love the build. I love the idea. But it just got power creeped so ridiculously hard in black and white to where it really just got phased out of viability. But either way, I mean, this deck is still so cool. I love it. I think it's a really, really awesome deck idea. So, I mean, props to Matt Valassis for that. I mean, this is such a cool deck. But either way, we're going to go ahead and play it through. Well, not really play it yet because of not having a basic. But, ooh, we actually start with a pretty... You know what? This is a solid hand. This is solid. I would like to have a Serperior and a Oh, not Serperior. Of course I'd love to have Serperior up turn 1, but that's just not practical at all. I would like to have a Snivy and Solosis, and I can actually get that. Unfortunately, we do go second, which, I mean, is... I mean, if the nail in the coffin was this deck being power creeped, the second nail in the coffin is the fact that we are now going to go second. So, we're just on a ticking time bomb here. And my opponent does start with a Keldeo and a Tynamo. Seems to get a pretty... Well, has to get rid of an electric. So that's... I mean, I'm good with that. But either way, well, just ends me. Just ends me. That's fine. I mean, I did like my hand, and then again, I haven't seen what this N is going to produce yet, so I'm going to hold off on saying it's fine for now. Well, this is actually a lot better than I could have hoped for. So what I will be able to do is Collector into some good stuff. Unfortunately, my opponent gets a very good hand, too. So I could just, you know, cry there. But either way, I am going to immediately Collector, grab a Solosis, a Zorua, and a Snivy to be able to play those guys down immediately. And then I think I'm probably going to P-Com next turn. Well, P-Com this turn, yeah. For get rid of the Serperior. Probably grab a Donphan. Nah, the Reshiram's the better play. Just to have something that can soak up some damage and attack. So let's play the Reshiram down there. Because, I mean, I have enough Donphan in my deck to where I should be able to draw into it. And then I'm going to play the energy onto the Phanpy on the bench, just in case my opponent manages to knock out my active one. That way I just don't lose all of my energy. So we get a very, very good first turn setup. I mean, this is about as good as you could possibly want with this deck. You have everything out that you could want. And, I mean, I have two Phanpy out, my attackers. I have a Solosis and a Snivy out turn 1, so I'll be able to evolve them as soon as possible. And then I even have a pretty solid hand for next turn, where I can evolve 2 of my Mons and then go ahead and Professor Oak's new theory to get a brand new hand of 6. So unfortunately, it looks like my Phanpy is going to go down. So I mean, I don't know how I'm going to be able to keep up with this, because my opponent being able to Dragon Burst me every single turn for upwards of like 100, 200 damage while I'm just dealing 60 back. And I even draw into the Donphan Prime. So that is very, very nice. But what I am going to do, go ahead and evolve a bunch, and then just go ahead and Oak's new theory. Hopefully get a better hand of 6. So I actually will not be able to attack this turn. That is quite unfortunate. But what I can do is go ahead and Level Ball for the Duosion to play that down right onto my Solosis. And then I have a Pcom next turn to grab a Reuniclus or a Serperior. And okay, I mean, like, I'm getting set up as much as I want to. I mean, admittedly, I would have really liked to have drawn an energy, but you can't win them all. But I mean, I'm getting very solidly set up. I, again, would have liked to attack, but again, I mean, you just don't always draw exactly what you need. And with a deck that relies on this random of a setup, then for a deck that relies on this random of a setup, that I'm doing extremely well. Although I would have liked my Computer Search. That would have been very nice. But either way, my opponent is more than likely going to be able to knock out my Donphan this turn. So yeah, it does just go ahead and grab a Lightning Energy to put onto the Rayquaza. And if he can find a way to get rid of another Lightning Energy, he will be able to Dynamotor onto his Rayquaza and then knock out my Donphan. So that'll be something that I really... I mean, I say that it's something I have to watch out for, but there's really nothing I can do if my opponent manages to get it. But luckily, it does not appear that my opponent has a Lightning Energy in his hand or a way, or he has one but he can't discard it, and he has nothing in the discard pile. So he will just Dragon Burst. Thanks to Exoskeleton, it will only be doing 100 damage. So, ooh, I draw my Alph Lithograph, so I'm going to go ahead and play that, look at my prize cards. Then, okay, Serperior, oh, the Computer Search is in there, of course it is. Let me write this down really quickly. So we have Serp, top right, Computer Search, Oak's new theory, Phanpy, DCE, and Zekrom. And Lithograph is different from Town Map because you only get to look once, you don't get to look again, and your opponent can't see it, which is nice. So what I am going to do is go ahead and Pcom, get rid of the Solosis to grab... Yeah, I think I want the Serperior rather than the Reuniclus at this point, just because, I mean, I would like to start healing damage, and if I draw into the Reuniclus, then that is awesome. Well, I draw into a way to get Reuniclus. So what I am going to do is Junk Arm, get rid of the Rare Candy, and the Junk Arm for a Pcom, so that I can go ahead and play that, get rid of the Solosis to grab a Reuniclus, and now you can start seeing how this deck works, because I'm going to be able to attack with Donphan, which puts damage onto my bench, and my Donphan is completely damaged right now. So you see that, but let's go ahead and damage swap, put damage onto this Donphan, damage onto the Zoroark, damage onto the Reuniclus, damage onto Serperior. I mean, just spread the damage around to where I will be able to hit the Rayquaza for a pretty good amount of damage next turn. Well, I'll be able to hit for the Earthquake while also getting rid of some of the damage on my Pokemon. So let's go ahead and put... So what I want to do, go ahead and put 20 damage onto... Well, 10 damage onto my active Donphan. And then 20 damage onto, I think, everything on my bench. Actually, hold on. Let's go ahead and damage swap, actually, to put 10 damage onto the Donphan, because Exoskeleton will keep me from being damaged by the Earthquake. So yeah, I am just going to go ahead and Earthquake, do 10 damage to all of my Pokemon, but then Serperior will kick in, heal off 10 damage, and right there, I just healed off 60 damage just from spreading the damage around on my side, and then Serperior being able to just heal that off, and I will be able to get even more damage spread out coming in, well, even more damage healed off coming into my turn and then back into my opponent's turn. So this is exactly how this deck is supposed to work. Unfortunately, my opponent, if they do have a Lightning in hand, will be able to knock out my Donphan, and there's absolutely nothing I can do. I mean, my opponent is set up. My opponent is completely set up. There's absolutely nothing I can do about this. Like, this is the power creep on display. This deck was very, very good in early Black-White. I mean, this deck was very awesome because you could attack for cheap, and then you could just heal off and your opponent would have trouble knocking Donphan out. Unfortunately, now there's almost zero problem knocking Donphan out, as you're seeing, because my opponent is set up being able to Dragon Burst for 3 energy and then knock out my Donphan. And what's even worse is the Giant Cape is preventing me from being able to the Giant Cape is preventing me from being able to knock out this Rayquaza with 3 Earthquakes. So I mean, that's just unfortunate right there. And then I played out my hand completely, so there's absolutely nothing I can do. All I can do is just, I can't even foul play because Dragon Burst won't be doing anything, so I am just going to try to power up the Reshiram. And unfortunately, all the healing is now going to hurt because my opponent will be able to knock out the Donphan Prime, and I won't have a lot of damage on board. So, I mean, nothing I can do at all. It's unfortunate, but I mean, this deck is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and you can see it's a very, very cool strategy. I mean, I think this is one of the awesomer strategies that I've encountered, specifically with, well, not just limited to Legacy, because Legacy is where all the really cool strategies come out, because Legacy in itself is slower than Expanded and Standard. But this is definitely one of the cooler decks I've come across, so thank you a ton to Matt Valassis for sending me this deck list. I mean, this was really cool to see in action and really cool to get set up and everything, but unfortunately, this deck just got power creeped so hard, like I've said over and over, so there's really nothing I can do about it. And we just have to sit back as my opponent powers up his Rayquaza once again and is going to be able to knock out my Donphan Prime with a Dragon Burst. And, I mean, unless... Is there anything I can do that would allow me to win? Not really. So I'm just going to send up Zoroark, heal off the last bit of damage that's on my Pokemon. And unless... So yeah, top deck, nothing. So I'm just going to concede. There's nothing I can do at this point. But either way, I mean, look at all that damage we healed off. We healed off 180 damage. That was really, really cool and really awesome to play. I would have liked to have played this deck at the time against the other decks at the time, because I'm sure it would have... I mean, I'm sure it was a lot more effective than... Well, I mean, okay, that's not to say it wasn't effective. It was effective in what it did, but I would have liked to have played it in an era where it was just as powerful as the other decks that it was going up against. So yeah, that was the Matt Valassis Serperior version of this deck. Let's just go ahead and try to find another one with the truth. Alrighty, now we have the deck that took second place at, I believe it was... I think it was 2011 Worlds or Nationals. I think it was Worlds. I'm pretty sure it was Worlds. But we have the deck that took second place at Worlds against, well, updated Legacy decks. So we will see how that goes. I start off with nothing because, I mean, I don't have 2 halves of the Legend, and that's a Duosion, not a Solosis, and I keep thinking that's a Solosis. Whenever I see it, I think it's a Solosis. But either way, we start off with... Well, I mean, could be worse. Could be a lot worse. I mean, I'd really like a supporter, but on the bright side, I do have all the Pokemon that I could want. So, I mean, there's something in that. My opponent is playing... Oh, this is a Weavile Eggs deck, so that'll be... Ugh. That's gonna be interesting. So I am just going to play the Rainbow Energy and pass because I drew a whole lot of nothing. And yeah, so I really hope that's not an indicator of how this match is going to go. Because that would just make me very, very sad if we were just to get immediately donked. My opponent does Dual Ball for a Jirachi. Please go for an N. Please go for an N. Don't go for a Juniper or something like that. Please go for an N. That way you give me a new hand. Although... Oh, my opponent does just decide to Smeargle. So that's interesting. Well, not really interesting. It's kind of expected. My opponent is just going to go ahead and Smeargle going to go probably Portrait to look at my hand to see what I have. Or just Seeker, I guess. So, okay, I am just going to go ahead and Seeker up the Solosis because that thing is kind of expendable. That's a really smart thing to run in a deck like that. I mean, I credit my opponent on that. That is very smart to run. If I can get a Donphan, I will be able to take an immediate prize, and would you look at that? Wow. That is awesome. So what I am going to be able to do, evolve into Gloom, go ahead and Donphan, play the... Do I want to play the Rainbow Energy? Yes, because that way I have the potential to Heavy Impact and knock out the Jirachi next turn, and we will be able to Earthquake, knock out the Smeargle, and... Okay, I draw into my Reuniclus, so if I can get a rare candy, then I am all set. Unfortunately, I think I should have waited to play the Solosis back down, because after 3 Earthquakes, I'm going to be knocking out my own Pokemon. So I have to be very, very, very careful of that. My opponent does just play it onto play an energy onto the Jirachi, so that's kind of interesting. If he decides to retreat it into like a well, actually, ideally my opponent would retreat it into a Sneasel, so I'd be able to knock that out. But I don't think my opponent is that dumb. Either way, we are able to... Okay, there's the Sneasel. Please retreat your Jirachi into it. I would very much appreciate that. Otherwise, I think... See, what's frustrating about Heavy Impact is that it's 3 fighting energy. Not 2 fighting and a colorless. It's 3 fighting, so the DCE that I have in my hand is pretty much worthless when it comes to knocking out the Jirachi, and I do get a Vileplume. So you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go ahead and play the Vileplume. I'm going to play the item lock. Solosis is going to go down with repeated Earthquakes, but at this point, I mean, this is what I have to do, because otherwise, well, with my ridiculously slow start, I mean, I have not gotten a single supporter all game, and with my incredibly ridiculously slow start, I have to just try to item lock my opponent and go from there, because my deck, or not my deck, this deck is designed to do well against item lock. This deck is designed to work under item lock. My opponent's deck is not. My opponent will usually relies on Junk Arm, Ultra Ball, like a ton of different items in order to be effective. So being able to lock them out of items is really, I think, my only way of being able to win. And what's even cool about this Vileplume, I mean, I know I said this, but what's cool about this Vileplume is that it cannot be locked down by Garbodor. That is so ridiculously awesome. Ooh, what I can do is go ahead and play down Suicune Entei Legend and play the DCE onto it. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I definitely would like to do that. Yeah, let's just go ahead and play that. That way I can play like a Fire Energy onto it later. Play the... I mean, I knock out my own Solosis, so my opponent takes a prize, but I will be down to 3 prizes. My opponent will be down to 5. And let's hope I can get something off this. Oh, there's an N. Wow, I really could have used that before, you know, I went down to 3 prizes. So what this actually does also is it will disrupt my opponent, and I don't think my opponent will be able to knock out my Donphan just yet. Will Juniper, oh, look at that. I had to get rid of a computer search. That is gorgeous. But yeah, my opponent will not be able to knock me out at this point, I don't think, because they will not have enough Pokemon in their hands. Although, admittedly, with the 2 Rainbow Energy that I played, if my opponent can get 3 Execute into the discard pile, then, well, can get 4 Execute, then Exoskeleton will not be able to save me because Vilify will do the damage, will be able to do 100 damage and knock out my Donphan. So that's something I will have to watch out for. Hopefully I can just draw into another Fighting Energy or something like that to where I'll be able to... Well, actually, I don't think I need it at this point. Unless my opponent goes into Sableye, I don't think I'll need it. So I have a single card in my discard pile after I think it's been first turn, second turn, knocked out, Smeargle, third turn. Yeah, it's been 4 turns and I have a single thing in my discard pile. I am just going to go ahead... Yeah, I'm going to end just because my hand's so bad. My hand is horrible right now. I do have the Rainbow Energy. The question is, do I want to save that? Because I can put it on the Suicune Entei Legend, but you know what? I think at this point it's just better to attach and then play a Solosis down. That way I can potentially move energy or move damage counters around later when I need it. And okay, so I mean, Frozen City plus Rainbow Energy equals very bad situation, and yeah, that's gonna put me in a spot where my opponent can knock me out with just two Pokemon Vilify. I'm gonna play the Blissey down just cause to go for the heavy impact. That way, I mean, I can potentially move damage counters around and heal them if I draw into my Blissey Prime. And I draw into, I mean, if this was like a Reuniclus and a Duosion, then that would be phenomenal. Right now it is not, and I'm one prize away from being able to potentially win the game. It looks like, oh boy, it looks like my opponent was able to top deck a Jirachi. So that kind of makes me cry at that right there. And my opponent does, okay, my opponent will be able to knock me out if they draw into a Darkness Energy, which, I mean, more than likely they will. They're going to put the Lily back in the deck. I'm in a very precarious spot right now. So, yeah, Vilify will be able to knock out this Donphan. And, what can I do from here? Obviously, I can't do anything with the cards in my hand. I kind of wish I'd played the Pichu down just because of that free retreat. However, I don't know. What am I going to sack? Probably just going to sack the Solosis. Yeah, I'm probably just going to sack the Solosis to the Weavile. If I can get a Fire Energy, then I can attach to Suicune Entei Legend and potentially win the game with that. So my opponent is going to go ahead and Vilify. Yes, it will be able to knock out my Donphan Prime, which is very unfortunate. But, I mean, all I need is one prize. I literally only need one prize. I think I'm just going to sack my Solosis at this point. That's all I can do. Draw into a Sage's Training. That is probably... Wow, that's probably one of the best cards I could possibly draw at this point. So what I am going to... So let's go ahead and grab the DCE. And... So Chansey can do 20 to my opponent's Weavile, which will set up the 80 for... Suicune Entei Legend. The question is, what is the card I want to grab next? I think just grab the Pichu because of that free retreat. And then... You know what? Duosion or Solosis can do 20 damage as well. So yeah, I'm just gonna get the damage I need on the Weavile right now. I will not be knocked out by Frozen City. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, guys. I am so stupid. I completely forgot about the resistance. So what I should have done right there is sacked the Duosion to the Weavile, gone into Chansey, hit for 20. And then I would have set up the knockout with Suicune Entei Legend. So, I mean, that was... I'm stupid. I'm stupid, and I'm... Yeah, wow, okay. No excuses for that one. I literally completely forgot that resistance was a thing. And now I'm most likely going to pay for it. Because what I should have done is sacked the Solosis. And then once my opponent knocked it out, gone into the Chansey... and gone from there. I mean, gone into the Chansey and gotten the damage off. I can't use Twins anymore, so what I am going to just do is Playground to get cards out of my deck. Go into Phanpy and Cleffa. That way, once my opponent knocks out my Pichu, I can just go into Cleffa and try to redraw and try to just eke for a hand of 6. My opponent will be able to put more Pokemon on their bench, but at this point, it really doesn't matter. Because Suicune Entei Legend will be able to, and of course I wake up. That's not what I wanted. I did not want to wake up immediately. I wanted to stay asleep and then wake up. That way my opponent would have to... Well, okay, it looks like my opponent is just going to Vilify, take the prize on this Pichu, and again, we are still one prize away. I really wish I would have sacked my Chansey, but on the bright side, I do have a free retreating Cleffa, and oh, I get the Fire Energy. Booyah. So I will have a chance to win this. Let's play the Pichu down. Go ahead and retreat. into my Suicune Entei Legend, and while I will only be able to do 80 damage, I will burn the Weavile, which allows me to potentially win on the coin flip. And okay, I get the burn flip. Okay, admittedly that shouldn't have mattered at all because I should have just gone into Chansey and already had that 20 damage there, but I'm an idiot and decided to go into Solosis, so still able to come through. And while this deck faces the same shortcoming as the Serperior version of this deck, in that everything has been power creep to where this deck is not nearly as good as it was before. This just goes to show you how incredibly strong item lock can be. It can take a deck that has been, I mean, it's been rotated out, it's been power creep to death, it's been power creep to near extinction, but item lock in itself was able to allow me to win this game. I mean, that just simple as that. Item lock allowed me to win this game and to get set up to the point where I could win this game. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this live. I know I 100% enjoyed playing matches with these old and cool combo decks, and I really wish the standard format was more like that, but unfortunately it's all faster now, so what can you do except go back and play Legacy? But thank you so much for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.